The opening weekend of Tron Ares has come and gone, and with a domestic gross of just $33.5 million, things aren't looking too hot. But why didn't people come out in droves for Jared Leto's new sci-fi adventure? We can think of a few reasons.
Anyone see the movie Tron?
No.
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 No. No.
No.
Yes.
Jared Leto has been starring in movies for 30 years, yet he's only appeared in two, Suicide Squad and Panic Room, that made more than $95 million at the domestic box office. Everything else has been art house fare that won awards but didn't rake in big bucks, like Dallas Buyers Club or wannabe blockbusters that flopped: Morbius, Haunted Mansion, Alexander, Blade Runner 2049. The list goes on and on. Putting Leto in a big-budget movie is practically a box office kiss of death. Leto just isn't a draw. He may even be an audience deterrent at this point.
I could tell you meant that.
His one relative hit, 2016 Suicide Squad, pulled down just over $325 million domestically. But there are lots of reasons to think Leto didn't have much to do with that. It had a much larger ensemble cast that included Will Smith and Margot Robbie. In fact, most of Leto's scenes as the Joker were removed from the final cut. It was also riding a wave of superhero cinema in the mid-2010s, and despite doing pretty well financially, it was pretty poorly regarded by critics and audiences alike. If Leto, only 4 years removed from his Oscar-winning Dallas Buyers Club turn, couldn't move the needle for Blade Runner 2049, then Tron Ares was never going to get a boost from him. After all, this Disney tentpole was following the laughingstock that was Morbius. Even in the late 90s and early 2000s, Leto wasn't a movie star you could rely on to bring in the big bucks. Disney putting a Tron movie with a $180 million budget on his shoulders in the 2020s was a completely baffling move. Tron has always been incredibly popular with folks on the internet. However, even back in 1982, when sci-fi action tentpoles were scarcer, it didn't bring down the house in its domestic box office run. It only grossed $33 million in North America, and 28 years later, Tron Legacy scored $172 million domestically, making it the 12th biggest 2010 film on US shores. While by no means total box office bombs, the first two Tron films had runs that were more fine than staggeringly successful. They also tended to have more long-term cult appeal, rather than constantly becoming beloved masterpieces handed down from one generation to the next. Heck, Legacy's greatest long-term impact on culture was Daft Punk's acclaimed score, rather than any characters or lines of dialogue. There was already limited appeal to Tron movies in the franchise's best of times. Disney returning to Tron even in the best possible outcome would have probably yielded limited box office returns. With that in mind, general audiences were going to need an urgent reason to see Tron Ares in a theater. One of those reasons could have been excellent reviews that promised prospective moviegoers more than what previous installments had to offer. Unfortunately, such reviews never came. Instead, the film received mixed marks from critics, with most finding problems in how it failed to deliver any sort of enthralling emotional core or surprising storytelling turns. Jared Leto's central performance also scored widespread derision,
something I do not understand,
as did the decision to remove so much of the film from the grid backdrop of the prior two Tron adventures. Not all blockbusters need glowing marks to reach box office supremacy. Just ask those behind the various Michael Bay Transformers films or fellow 2025 blockbuster Jurassic World Rebirth. However, those titles belong to sturdier franchises with greater mainstream appeal than Tron Ares. Everyone knows and loves the Jurassic Park mythos. The Tron lore, meanwhile, has a much more limited fanbase. Positive reviews probably wouldn't have propelled Ares to a $100 million plus domestic debut, but they could have inspired some skeptical audiences to give it a chance. A B+ cinema score grade for moviegoers, on par with past divisive blockbusters like Suicide Squad, just solidified that it wasn't just online film critics who weren't crazy about Tron Ares. When Tron Legacy hit multiplexes in 2010, Walt Disney Pictures released a slew of big blockbusters that were intended to get more young boys invested in Mouse House cinema. The result was a heaping pile of box office bombs. Movies like Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time and The Sorcerer's Apprentice became go-to examples of studios losing boatloads of money. Subsequent early 2010s Disney tentpoles like John Carter and The Lone Ranger also cratered trying to be boy blockbusters. Disney finding immense success in this same time period with Tangled and Frozen reinforced an inescapable truth. Hollywood ignores women moviegoers at its own peril. This is a demographic that truly drives the biggest box office hits throughout history, like Titanic.
I'm flying!
Cut to Tron Ares, and once again Disney is staring down the barrel of an immense money loser that struggled because it largely only appeared to one gender. The film's opening weekend audience was 68% male, a staggeringly worrisome statistic carrying on the tradition of Tron Legacy, which also attracted largely male audiences in its opening weekend. Some of 2025's biggest movies like Lilo and Stitch and The Conjuring: Last Rites had over half of their respective opening weekend audiences hail from women audiences, a sign of how crucial this demographic is to any hit movie. No wonder Tron Ares flopped. If you're appealing to only one segment of the movie-going population, how can you be an all-audiences smash hit? As Evan Peters announces in one of the Tron Ares trailers,
"So much talk of AI and big tech today."
This line was meant to make the film seem like it had its finger on the pulse of today's biggest headlines. Instead, that handful of words encapsulated why many audiences likely stayed away from this feature as a source of escapist entertainment. Open up any news website on any given day in 2025, and countless news articles about fresh developments in AI tech will fill your eyeballs. Everyone's social media feeds are clogged with AI slop, while every tech company is embracing it. It's inescapable. So, is it really something people want to see as the centerpiece of a massive action blockbuster? After all, why should audiences pay hefty IMAX ticket prices for a movie about AI when there are so many articles and YouTube videos about the technology? Tron Ares just looks like more of what's already clogging the news cycle rather than a big-budget reflection of real-world technological anxieties. Plus, Tron's use of AI for such heightened means made it immensely divorced from how AI is affecting people and the environment in the real world. Ultimately, a little more escapism and less timelessness would have helped Tron Ares seem more appealing to general audiences. The original Tron debuted during Walt Disney Pictures' efforts to overhaul the kind of movies it put out. It was a mission echoed by the earlier sci-fi blockbuster The Black Hole, but neither film turned into a massive box office success. Both films represent the struggles Disney has had with homegrown sci-fi movies. Pre-existing sci-fi projects from studios that Disney bought have proven successful, like Avatar, Star Wars, and the MCU. But original genre titles developed within the Mouse House have often been box office disasters. The examples of this phenomenon are endless, from 2012's John Carter to the train wreck that was 2015's Tomorrowland. Then there are the animated flops, like Mars Needs Moms, Lightyear, Strange World, Treasure Planet, and Elio. Even smaller box office misfires like Race to Witch Mountain have proven how hard it is for Disney to get family and general audiences to turn out in droves for original features with robots and laser guns. Only WALL-E and Big Hero 6 are exceptions to the rule, something that Tron Ares wasn't able to become. People have lots of options for sci-fi entertainment out there, and Disney often ends up competing with itself in that department. Like it or not, people seem to like Star Wars and Marvel a whole lot more than Tron. While Jeff Bridges returning as Kevin Flynn was a prominent element of the Tron Ares marketing, with him even getting his own character poster, Tron Ares is otherwise heavily divorced from the previous two Tron films in terms of its central cast. Bruce Boxleitner's Alan Bradley, once a centerpiece of the original Tron Legacy teaser trailer, is never referenced a single time in either the Tron Ares marketing campaign or the final film. Tron Legacy protagonists Sam Flynn and Cora are relegated to appearing in nothing but still photographs and news reports. Even Cillian Murphy's Edward Dillinger Jr., who previously showed up in Tron Legacy as a tease for a potential sequel villain, is MIA in Ares. His never-before-mentioned sister Elizabeth takes his place. Given the limited appeal of the Tron saga, it's doubtful that plastering Sam Flynn on posters would have turned Tron Ares into a smash hit. That said, being so divorced from the dangling plot threads and character beats from Legacy surely didn't help Ares ingratiate itself into the franchise's die-hard fans. Rather than seeming like an organic follow-up to Legacy, Tron Ares is majorly disconnected from its predecessors. In this respect, Ares struggled as much resonating with Tron maniacs as it did with general audiences in search of a little razzle-dazzle.
Life has a way of moving you past things like wants and hopes.
Tron Legacy debuted the same year that the very first iPad hit the market. Its December 17, 2010 premiere meant that Legacy preceded the existence of movies ranging from The Avengers to Gone Girl to monster trucks. It was halfway through President Obama's first term, and Taylor Swift had just released her third album. All of this is to say, it's been a while since the last Tron movie hit the theatrical marketplace. Heck, there was an even shorter gap between Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens than there was between Legacy and Tron Ares. Waiting that long between installments meant that any hype associated with Legacy had long cooled off.
And then what? Game over.
If it had dropped in 2014 or 2015, Tron Ares could have seemed like a relatively relevant sequel to general audiences. 15 years and many iPad models later, Tron was on nobody's mind until Disney began its marketing blitz. The die-hard Legacy fans have moved on to other franchises, and people who fell in love with the original Tron when they saw it in the theaters as kids are in their 50s now. That film had groundbreaking special effects for its time, but Tron Ares doesn't quite set itself apart from other new releases in the CGI department. Sometimes slow and steady wins the race, but in this case, a lengthy wait had no upsides. It only doomed Tron Ares to feel redundant. Here's the bottom line, Disney. Stop trying to make Tron a thing. It's not gonna happen.